They told you money is hard to earn, that wealth belongs only to the lucky or the chosen. But deep down, you know that's not true. You felt it, the quiet whisper that says abundance is your birthright, that prosperity is not something outside of you, but something already written in your imagination. And yet, time after time, you try to manifest, you affirm, you visualize, but the results seem to slip through your fingers. Why? It's not because the law doesn't work. It's not because you are unworthy. It's because subtle mistakes, hidden patterns of thought and feeling, are silently blocking the very wealth you're calling for. Most people never see them. They chase techniques, rituals, quick fixes, but few ever recognize the invisible traps that sabotage their manifestation. And these mistakes are not small. They are the difference between living chained to scarcity and stepping into the freedom of abundance. What if you could uncover them? What if you could see the 9 common errors that quietly strangle your success and cut them off forever? Stay with this message, because once these illusions shatter, nothing will ever stand between you and the wealth you desire. There is a subtle but devastating mistake most people make when trying to manifest money. They beg the universe instead of creating from within. It sounds harmless. Prayers, pleading, desperate affirmations whispered at midnight. But behind that energy is a vibration of lack. Begging says, I don't have. I need. Please give it to me. And the law of manifestation, the law Neville Goddard and countless mystics revealed, reflects only what you are. If you beg, you confirm you are without. If you plead, you declare separation between you and abundance. Think about it. Kings do not beg for their thrones. Artists do not beg for inspiration. True creators stand in the knowing that what they imagine is already theirs. When you beg, you place wealth on a pedestal, as though money is some external deity that decides whether or not you are worthy. You shrink your own power, and the universe mirrors that shrinking back to you. Creation is different. Creation begins with the assumption that the desire is already fulfilled. It is the quiet authority of closing your eyes and feeling the reality of holding that money, spending it, investing it, giving it. Creation is not asking, it is embodying. You step into the role of someone who already has. You wear the state of abundance like a second skin, and from that state, circumstances bend to reflect it. The danger of begging is that it never ends. A person who begs today will beg tomorrow, because begging feeds the identity of someone who is always waiting. It becomes a cycle of longing without receiving. But when you shift into creation, longing transforms into living. You no longer look outside for approval, for signs, or for permission. You become the source. Consider this. Every invention, every empire, every fortune began in someone's imagination first. They did not beg reality to change. They imposed their inner vision upon it. Andrew Carnegie, Nikola Tesla, Steve Jobs, all of them acted as creators, not beggars. They held the image so strongly that the external world had no choice but to yield. The shift is simple, but it requires discipline. Stop asking, start assuming. When you catch yourself saying, please let me have more money, reframe it to I am already living in wealth. I feel it. I am it. One vibrates with lack. The other vibrates with creation. You are not a beggar at the gates of abundance. You are the architect of it. The universe is not withholding. It is reflecting. And the moment you stop approaching manifestation with desperate hands, and start embodying it with certain steps, you will see how fast money flows. Begging keeps you small. Creating makes you sovereign. And sovereignty is the true foundation of wealth. Waiting for signs instead of becoming the sign. One of the most seductive traps on the path of manifestation is waiting for proof. You visualize money. You affirm abundance. And then you keep scanning the horizon for a sign that it's working. You check your bank account every hour. You hope for an unexpected text. You look for angel numbers, feathers, synchronicities, anything that tells you yes, it's on the way. But here's the paradox. When you wait for a sign, you declare you don't yet believe. You hand over your power to the external world, hoping it will give you permission to finally feel rich. You are like a traveler waiting at the station for a train that only arrives once you start walking. Neville Goddard said, signs follow, they do not precede. That one sentence carries the secret. Signs are shadows of your inner assumption. They come only after you inhabit the state. If you make the sign the goal, you invert the order of creation and end up stuck in waiting forever. Think about the wealth. They don't walk around searching for proof of their abundance. Their life is the proof. The way they carry themselves, the way they make decisions, the way they breathe, it radiates certainty. The world reflects back to them what they already embody. That's the difference. When you keep checking for signs, you're saying, I'll believe when I see it. But manifestation requires the opposite. I'll see it because I believe it. Belief is not built on evidence. It creates evidence. So how do you stop waiting and start becoming the sign? By acting, feeling, and moving as though your wealth is already here. Not pretending, not forcing, but naturally shifting into that state until it feels like the only truth. You don't check your account for miracles. You live like miracles are routine. You don't wait for someone to validate your dream. You carry yourself as the validation. The world then has no choice. It bends. It rearranges. It sends the signs after you've stopped looking. Suddenly, the check arrives. The opportunity appears, the conversation shifts. Not because you begged for proof, but because you became proof. Waiting makes you powerless. Becoming makes you magnetic. Your life is not meant to be a scavenger hunt for hints. It is meant to be the living evidence of divine abundance flowing through you. Stop asking, where is the sign? Start declaring, I am the sign. And when you stand in that authority, you will see that the very reality around you has been waiting all along for you to stop waiting. 3. Confusing money with worth. This mistake is one of the most destructive illusions in the modern world. The belief that your value as a human being is tied to the numbers in your bank account. Society feeds you this lie from the beginning. The more you earn, the more respected you are. The less you have, the less you matter. And without realizing it, you start to internalize this poison. If I don't have money, I am less. If I gain money, I am more. But understand this, money is not worth. Money is a reflection, a shadow, a symbol. It is not the substance of who you are. Your worth is eternal, infinite, unshakable. It existed before you held $1, and it will remain long after every dollar has vanished. To confuse the two is to chain your soul to the fickle winds of circumstance. When you see money as worth, you manifest from desperation. Every visualization becomes, if I get this, then I'll finally be enough. But that vibration of unworthiness only multiplies scarcity. It keeps you stuck in a chase that never ends. Even if you gain wealth, you will feel hollow, because the root lie that you are not enough remains untouched. The truth is the opposite. Money flows to those who already know their worth. When you feel rich within, when you walk with the posture of someone valuable regardless of circumstance, money becomes an echo of that conviction. Think of the great creators, innovators, visionaries. They did not wait for a paycheck to confirm their value. They knew their ideas were priceless, and the world had no choice but to catch up. Neville Goddard taught that your inner assumption is the cause, and the outer world is the effect. If you assume you are valuable only when the effect shows up, you invert the law. You place the cart before the horse. Instead, begin with the truth. I am already worthy. My value is not negotiable. From that foundation, money becomes natural, effortless, a byproduct of being. Imagine a diamond. Whether buried deep in the earth or displayed in a jeweler's case, its value never changes. It is still a diamond. Your worth is the same. Whether you are sitting in debt or surrounded by millions, your essence is untouched. The moment you accept that truth, you stop chasing money as a stamp of approval. You start creating money as an extension of who you are. Detach worth from wealth. See money as a tool, a mirror, a servant, not a master. The day you stop confusing the two is the day you unlock abundance without fear, shame, or apology. Because when you know your worth, the universe has no choice but to reflect it in the form of opportunities, relationships, and yes, money. You are priceless. Money is simply the echo of that truth, and echoes always follow the voice. Living in the shadow of how, instead of the certainty of it is done. This mistake looks logical on the surface, but it's the very thing that keeps most people trapped. You set an intention, you visualize abundance, and then immediately your mind whispers, but how will it happen? The questions flood in. How will the money come? Who will give it to me? What steps must I take? What if it doesn't arrive? This obsession with how is the silent killer of manifestation. Why? Because how belongs to the realm of the logical mind, not the creative mind. The logical mind can only work with what it already knows, past experiences, limited resources, visible paths, but manifestation is not born out of the past. It is born out of imagination. The moment you demand to know how, you shrink the infinite possibilities of the universe into the narrow walls of your reasoning. You block miracles before they even have space to form. Neville Goddard said, "Your assumption, if persisted in, will harden into fact." Notice what he did not say. He did not say, "Your assumption will harden into fact if you figure out the steps." He did not say, "The law works once you've built the perfect business plan." He said only this: assume the state and persist. The how is not your job. It belongs to the unseen intelligence, the orchestration of life itself. Think of it this way. When you plant a seed, you don't dig it up every morning asking, "How are you growing? Which root is moving first? What path will your stem take to reach the surface?" No, you trust the process. You know the seed is alive. You water it. You care for it, but you never demand to see the mechanics of growth. Manifestation works the same. Your desire is the seed. Your assumption is the soil. Your persistence is the water. And the universe handles the rest. When you live in the shadow of how, you create resistance. You keep your eyes glued to the ground, waiting for sprouts, and in doing so you delay them. But when you rest in the certainty of it is done, you release, you allow, you trust, and the results often arrive in ways you could never have engineered with your limited logic. History is filled with stories of people who simply knew long before the evidence appeared. Inventors, prophets, entrepreneurs. They didn't obsess over the mechanics. They lived in the reality of the end. And then the so-called how revealed itself step by step, almost as if the path was walking toward them. So the lesson is this: stop asking how. It's not your business. Your business is assumption, embodiment, persistence. The rest belongs to the unseen. Say it to yourself. It is done. Feel it as finished. Stand in the certainty that the universe has already rearranged itself in your favor. The shadow of how makes you a prisoner. The certainty of it is done makes you free. And freedom is the only soil where true abundance grows. 5. Manifesting from lack instead of fulfillment. This is the cruel irony of manifestation. Most people fail not because they lack effort, but because their effort is soaked in the very energy they want to escape. They sit down to visualize money, but their minds whisper, "I don't have enough. I need more. Please let it come." Every affirmation, every picture, every meditation is charged with the vibration of absence. And the law of consciousness does not deliver what you want. It delivers what you are. If you radiate lack, you attract more lack. It's like trying to quench your thirst by staring at an empty glass, begging it to fill. The more you look at the emptiness, the more thirsty you feel. The more thirsty you feel, the more desperate you become. That cycle is exactly how most people approach money manifestation. They dwell on bills, on debts, on scarcity, and then they sprinkle affirmations on top, hoping it will cover the wound. But the wound is still bleeding lack. Neville Goddard taught, "You must make your future dream a present fact by assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled." Fulfillment comes first, not last. You don't wait until the money arrives to feel abundant. You feel abundant and the money arrives. That's the reversal most never grasp. They wait to celebrate instead of celebrating now. They wait to feel relief instead of resting in relief now. And in waiting they create more waiting. Think of the wealthy. They don't carry the spirit of lack. They walk into a restaurant without glancing at prices. They invest with confidence, not fear. They expect money to flow because they already feel rich inside. That inner richness is the magnet. The outer dollars are just the echo. So how do you shift from lack to fulfillment? You must practice the state of already having. Close your eyes and see your account full. Feel the joy of paying bills easily. Imagine yourself gifting money, donating freely, investing boldly. Let those feelings saturate your body until they become natural. This isn't pretending, it's assuming. And assumption is the seed that reality must grow around. Fulfillment is powerful because it signals completion. When you already feel the end, the universe recognizes you as someone who has arrived. And when you've arrived inwardly, circumstances bend to match. That is why Neville emphasized resting in the feeling, not forcing results. Stop manifesting from wounds. Stop praying from emptiness. Stop visualizing from desperation. Instead, step into the vibration of completion. Become the man or woman who has already received. Walk as them, speak as them, feel as them, and soon the outer world will have no choice but to mirror the inner world. Manifesting from lack is like shouting into an empty canyon and wondering why only your echo returns. Manifesting from fulfillment is like planting a seed in fertile soil. It must bloom, it must multiply, it must overflow. Choose fulfillment, live from it now, and watch abundance rush in to meet you. You say you want wealth, you declare abundance, you visualize prosperity, but beneath it all, you keep replaying the same old story of who you think you are. A story shaped by past failures, family beliefs, cultural programming. A story that whispers, money is hard to come by. People like me don't get rich. Every time I rise, I fall. And as long as you cling to that identity, no amount of affirmations will save you. Because manifestation does not answer your words. It answers your state. And your state is rooted in the story you tell yourself about yourself. If your inner narrative is still one of struggle, life will obediently supply you with more struggle. If you secretly believe you are cursed with lack, life will echo that belief with precision. This is why Neville Goddard warned, change your conception of yourself, and you will automatically change the world in which you live. Most people try to change the world while leaving their conception untouched. They want new money while holding on to the old identity of someone broke. They want prosperity while still identifying as the struggler, the hustler, the victim. But the law is merciless. It will never contradict your dominant self-concept. Think of your mind as a projector. The film inside is your story. The screen outside is your reality. If you keep playing the same film of lack, of hardship, of I can never get ahead, then no matter how many times you change the screen, the projection remains the same. To create a new picture, you must change the film. You must rewrite the story. This is not about denying your past. It's about refusing to let it define your future. Yes, maybe your parents struggled. Maybe you've gone through bankruptcy, rejection, ridicule. But those are events, not identities. Events pass, identities persist. And if you keep binding your identity to your history, you will drag the chains of the past into every new attempt at abundance. So how do you break free? By boldly declaring, that old story is no longer mine. Write a new script. Speak to yourself as the wealthy, confident, abundant individual you are becoming. Each time the old identity whispers, but you've always struggled, answer with authority. That was another character, another life. I am no longer them. I am reborn as wealth itself. The world honors the story you most consistently embody. Change the story, and circumstances bend. Release the identity of the struggler. Step into the identity of the creator. Refuse to be loyal to pain just because it is familiar. Your past is not a prophecy. It is just a memory, and memories cannot chain you unless you worship them. The moment you let go of that old script, you give the universe permission to write you into abundance. 7. Dividing spiritual and material as opposites. This mistake is one of the greatest lies humanity has swallowed. The illusion that spirituality and wealth are enemies. For centuries, cultures, religions, and traditions have whispered the same message. To be spiritual, you must be poor. To be close to God, you must renounce money. To be holy, you must live in lack. And so countless seekers have cut themselves in half, torn between the longing for abundance and the guilt of wanting it. But listen carefully. There is no war between the spiritual and the material. They are not rivals. They are reflections of the same source. The material is not evil. It is expression. It is spirit crystallized into form. Money, wealth, possessions. All of it is nothing more than condensed energy, shaped by consciousness. To reject it is to reject your own creative power. Neville Goddard once said, "The whole vast world is yourself pushed out." That means the money you desire is not separate from your spirit. It is your spirit extended outward. When you deny money, you deny part of yourself. When you fear wealth, you fear your own reflection. True spirituality is not poverty, it is wholeness. And wholeness includes abundance. Think of nature. Does the tree apologize for its thousands of leaves? Does the ocean feel guilty for its endless waves? Does the sky shrink itself to avoid being too vast? Of course not. Abundance is the natural language of creation. Scarcity is the distortion. The belief that spirit and matter are enemies is nothing but a distortion handed down through fear, control, and misunderstanding. Here is the truth. Money in itself is neutral. It is not holy, nor is it evil. It simply amplifies the consciousness that wields it. In the hands of the fearful, it multiplies fear. In the hands of the greedy, it multiplies greed. But in the hands of the awakened, it multiplies freedom, generosity, expansion, creation. Money is not the enemy. The state of consciousness you carry into it is what defines the experience. When you cling to the illusion that wanting wealth makes you less spiritual, you sabotage manifestation at its root. You feel guilty as you imagine. You feel torn between two masters, your spirit and your wallet, and divided desire creates no results. But when you reconcile the two, when you see wealth as a divine expression of life's abundance, guilt dissolves. You stop apologizing for desiring more. You stop choosing between heaven and earth, and you realize both are already yours. Spirituality is not escaping the material, it is transforming it. It is bringing heaven into form. So stop dividing what was never divided. Claim wealth as part of your spiritual journey. Claim money as an instrument of divine expression. Let your abundance serve, expand, and inspire. Because the most spiritual thing you can do is to embody the fullness of who you are, both in spirit and in form. To divide them is illusion. To unite them is power. This mistake destroys faith faster than anything else. The belief that if it hasn't shown up yet, it never will. You set your intention, you affirm, you visualize, you feel the joy of receiving. Days pass, weeks pass, sometimes months. And in the silence of waiting, the mind whispers, maybe it's not working. Maybe I'm not chosen. Maybe the universe has said no. But here's the truth. There is no denial in consciousness. The law does not reject. The only delays are those born of resistance, doubt, and timing beyond your current sight. When you confuse delay with denial, you cut your seed before it has time to grow. You abandon the process halfway, and then you declare, see, it didn't work. But it did, it was working all along, until you uprooted it with disbelief. Think of a farmer. He plants a seed, waters it, trusts the soil. He doesn't scream at the ground on day 2, where is my crop? The earth has denied me. He knows growth is invisible before it is visible. He knows timing belongs to nature. He knows harvest follows seed, without exception. Your desires are no different. Neville Goddard said, because creation is finished, what you desire already exists. It is awaiting your recognition. That means the reality you long for is already here, in a dimension not yet seen. Delay is simply the bridge of events lining up to deliver it into your visible world. The universe is not saying no, it is saying, hold the state, and watch how I weave the path. Mistaking delay for denial is dangerous because it collapses your state. Instead of dwelling in the feeling of fulfillment, you dwell in disappointment. You begin to manifest lack, frustration, despair. And then the cycle repeats. Desire, brief faith, impatience, collapse. Each collapse reinforces the illusion that manifestation doesn't work. But when you refuse to mistake delay for denial, everything changes. You rest in certainty. You trust the unseen as much as the seen. You allow divine timing to unfold. You no longer dig up the seed. You water it, nourish it, and expect it. And expectation is the magnetic pull that collapses time. History is filled with stories of breakthroughs that came after long seasons of silence. Inventors, prophets, entrepreneurs. They held the vision long enough for reality to catch up. If they had mistaken delay for denial, none of their creations would exist today. So here is your challenge. When the silence comes, when the days stretch long without visible proof, resist the urge to collapse. Stand firm in the feeling of the end. Declare with authority, it is done, it is mine. The fact that I don't see it yet means nothing. The seed is alive. Delay is not denial. Delay is delivery, and those who endure with faith always receive. 9. Forgetting to feel the end as real. This, above all, is the fatal mistake. The trap that renders every affirmation, every vision board, every meditation powerless. People speak the words, they repeat the affirmations. They imagine the pictures, but they never feel the end as real. They stay in their heads, playing mental games, while their hearts remain unchanged. And manifestation is not a matter of words, it is a matter of state. Your state is not built by what you say, it is built by what you feel to be true. Neville Goddard declared, "Feeling is the secret, yet so many ignore it. They recite, 'I am wealthy, I am abundant,' but deep down they feel broke. They visualize luxury, but the emotion beneath it is doubt. They imagine success, but their body still carries the heaviness of struggle. And so the universe reflects the feeling, not the phrase. Because reality does not answer your lips, it answers your vibration. Ask yourself this: what would it feel like if it were already done? Not tomorrow, not someday, but now. If your debts were cleared, if your bank account overflowed, if money flowed freely into your life, what emotions would saturate your being? Relief, joy, freedom, power. That feeling is the secret key. It is not something to wait for, it is something to embody now. When you forget to feel the end as real, you reduce manifestation to wishful thinking. You create daydreams without anchor. But when you enter the state of the wish fulfilled, when you feel the joy, the gratitude, the security as though it were already yours, you collapse the distance between desire and reality. You become the person who already has, and life mirrors that identity without fail. Think of an actor on stage. He doesn't simply read the lines, he inhabits the role. His body, his voice, his emotions, all align with the character until the audience believes it is real. Manifestation demands the same. You must inhabit the role of the wealthy version of you, until your entire being resonates with it. That resonance is what moves mountains. The tragedy is that most never allow themselves to feel it. They say, "I'll celebrate when it comes. I'll relax when it arrives. I'll feel rich once the money shows up." But the law works in reverse. Only when you celebrate first, relax first, feel rich first, does the money arrive. So here is the final command: feel it, not as a future hope, but as a present fact. Feel the release of burden, feel the ease of abundance, feel the thrill of overflow. Let your imagination soak your emotions, until they become more real than your current circumstances. That is the bridge that leads to manifestation. Forgetting to feel is forgetting the law, but remembering to feel is remembering your power. Because once you feel the end as real, the end must come.